Hey, I'm Nancy Cavey, National ERISA and Individual Disability Attorney. Welcome to Winning Isn't Easy. Before we get started, I've got to give you a legal disclaimer required by the Florida Bar. This podcast isn't legal advice, but I'm going to give you insights about the disability insurance world, the games that carriers play, and what you need to know to get the disability benefits you deserve. So off we go. Disability carriers are not in the business of paying disability claims. That just doesn't help their bottom line. The golden rule is they're going to collect your premium dollar and they're going to rule that you are not disabled. And one of the most common tools in the disability carrier's arsenal that they'll use at all stages of a claim is the field interview. Now, in the first part of this episode, I talked about the mistakes that you can make in giving a statement without representation, letting the disability rats visit your house, mishandling questions about your medical condition, making mistakes in answering questions about why you can't work, making mistakes in answering questions about your treatment, side effects of medication, and the results you're having from treatment, and mistakes that you're making in answering questions about your restrictions and limitations. In today's episode, I am going to be focusing on restrictions and limitations because this really is the heart of questioning that they will ask you. That's going to lay the foundation for other questions and ultimately a claim termination. So let's first talk about why the carrier is asking all these questions about your activity of daily living when your doctor's already filled out forms and the common restrictions and limitations questions. Remember, if you're being called or contacted about a field interview, you are being set up for a claims denial. You need protection from yourself, yes, I said yourself, and from the carrier. Are you ready to learn more about the mistakes that you can make in a field interview and hear another story about what the impact of those mistakes are? Great. Stay tuned. I'll be back in a second.
Are you a professional with questions about your individual disability policy? You need the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. This book gives you a comprehensive understanding of your disability policy with tips and to-dos regarding your disability application that will assist you in submitting a winning disability application. This is one you won't want to miss. For the next 24 hours, we are giving away free copies of the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. Order yours today at disabilityclaimsforprofessionals.com.
Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. You didn't know that there were so many mistakes that you could make in your disability claim when the carrier calls asking for a field statement. But we're not done. We've got a lot more to go. Mistake number 10 is questions about lifting, carrying, bending, and twisting. Now, I gave you a little hint about that earlier. They like to ask broad, open-ended questions that are hard to accurately answer, but can be traps. So the questions may be, well, how much can you lift and carry? Remember, if you can lift more than 10 pounds, you've met or meeting the definition of sedentary work. They may ask you to give an example of something you can carry without being uncomfortable. What on earth is that question? That is like so open-ended. It doesn't ask what you can carry, how long you carry it, what they mean by uncomfortable. They let you dig yourself a hole and bury yourself in it. Now, have you lifted more than 10 pounds? Of course you have. Most people lift gallons of milk. They're at least 8 pounds. If you have young children or grandchildren, unless they're an infant, they probably weigh more than 10 pounds. So you probably have lifted 10 pounds. And if you say no, well, you cause yourself some trouble. But if you say, I might occasionally lift 10 pounds, or on a good day, I might be able to lift 10 pounds, but I will pay for it the next day. And the range of what I can lift is this to that, okay? Now, again, I think the real issue here is frequency of the lifting that you're doing and the consequences that you pay for lifting. Now, the questions that I just reviewed, don't ask you how much you can lift without having symptoms, how much you can lift repetitively, how much you can lift repetitively without having to stop. And of course, that question doesn't take into consideration real life lifting situations in the workplace. And again, your answers are going to be compared with that surveillance tape. If they catch you lifting more than what you say, they're going to say, gotcha. Your answers are going to be given to the doctor. And they're going to say, look, they say in their activity of daily living form that they can't lift 10 pounds. We've got a picture of her lifting 15 pounds. Do you agree that they could work at a sit-down job, even with lifting up to 10 pounds, 15 pounds? Well, the answer, of course, is going to be yes. But here's the other intangible. Well, no, actually, it's pretty tangible. What you can lift and carry depends on the size of the object, its weight, whether you're lifting it off the floor, lifting it off the table, how many times you lift it, whether you've got to bend, twist, lift, and squat, okay? So remember, if you're asked about these bending and squatting issues, the question again is going to be, for example, do they have a picture of you picking up a case of beer out of the grocery cart, lifting it up? Well, so you bent over, you picked it up, and you lifted it up, and then you twisted to put it over your trunk, and then you bent over and you put it in the trunk. Well, they've got you here, twisting, bending, and if you say you can't do it and the picture says that you can, well, you're in trouble. So again, no absolute answers here, ranges and estimates. Make it clear that you may be able to do it on a good day, that you have difficulties doing it, that you pay the price, all right? Mistake number 11, squatting and kneeling. Now, they may ask, are you able to squat to sit in a chair or to the floor? You use the toilet, don't you? So of course you can squat. That's a really bad question. But the next question is going to be, do you have any symptoms? They may ask you that. Generally, they don't. But if they do, what are the symptoms that you experience? Do you need assistance from someone or hold on to something to get up from a squatted position? Okay, so let's say you're in the grocery store and you need to get something on the bottom shelf. Are you going to bend? Are you going to squat? Are you going to do both? Do they have a picture of you doing that? If they're asking you that kind of question, the answer is probably yes. Now, they may ask you, can you kneel? What symptoms do you experience? Do you need assistance? Now, for those of us who are churchgoers, you are in church, you pull out the prayer bench, and you kneel to prayer, to say a prayer. So, of course, you're able to squat, but it may hurt like the dickens to squat. So again, these questions are designed to see whether or not you are being consistent with what it is you're telling your doctor, what you say you can and cannot do. Now, for those guys out there, and I don't mean to be sexist, but a lot of my clients like to wash their cars. They take pride in the appearance of their car, and they'll kneel to clean the hubcaps. Or some people are gardeners, and they'll squat or kneel to pull weeds or plant flowers. Amazingly, the long-term disability carrier is going to interpret those activities as the equivalent of work activities. So be truthful. Tell them, yeah, I washed the car. It was a nice sunny day. I was having a good day. I took my pain medication, and I washed it, and I bent, and I kneeled, and it's a shining, gleaming, beautiful car. But you know something? My back hurts like crazy. And I had to go in, take a ton of pain pills, and I went to sleep. And I hurt the next day, and I couldn't get out of bed. Okay? Mistake number 12, the use of your hands. Now, this is crucial. It's crucial for a number of reasons. Let's say you are engaged in an occupation that requires bilateral manual dexterity, like typing. Let's say your claim involves a herniated cervical disc with pain radiating down into your arms, or you've got carpal tunnel. Look, if you can't do the full range of sedentary work because you have issues with bilateral manual dexterity, then the carrier has got some problems. So if you've got problems with your hands, your arms, your upper extremities, that can be a problem for them, because part of sedentary work is the ability to engage in bilateral manual dexterity. You may be asked questions about what's your dominant hand, how often you use your hand, can you button your buttons, can you pick up coins, can you turn doors, open doors, can you write, can you type, can you hold a coffee cup, how long can you hold a coffee cup? I want you to be thinking carefully about those answers, because we want to demonstrate that you have problems with the full use of your hands and fingers. So you might have problems opening a jar, buttoning a button, unlocking doors, doing those things that require manual dexterity or bilateral manual dexterity. Think carefully about that question, because we know for the most part that we use our hands all day, day in and day out. But you may have difficulty doing it. You may have to stop or start the activity. You may have tingling or numbness. You may then start to drop things. You may have to use splints or braces. You may have difficulties with your shoulders where you're reaching out in front of you. So we've got to think of the manipulative restrictions and limitations and problems that you have, and talk about ranges. Give examples, good days, bad days. Don't answer these open-ended questions that will lead the carrier to say you've been exaggerating and that the doctor should not be relying on your comments about your restrictions and limitations in rendering their opinion about the level of work capability that you've got. So I want you to take the time to think through these questions, look for the open-ended nature of the question, and you reframe the question in a way that's accurate and complete, that takes into consideration pain, side effects of medication, good days and bad days. Wow, I've given you a lot to think about, but we're not done. We have got more mistakes to cover. So in the next episode, I'm going to be continuing on about problems and mistakes that you can make answering questions about restrictions and limitations. Remember, this is the carrier's game, and you need to stay in this game. If you like this podcast, consider liking our page, leaving a review, or sharing it with your friends and family. Remember, this podcast comes out weekly, so stay tuned for next week's episode of Winning Isn't Easy. Thanks.